He built his entire brand on being the good guy, the goofy tech bro, the doting husband, the one celebrity who seemed safe. But now, Ashton Kutcher is being dragged into something far more sinister. His name is showing up in connection with the federal investigation into Sean Diddy Combs. And this time, no amount of silence can protect him. Why did Ashton suddenly go into hiding? Why are people calling him a co-conspirator? And why is Mila Kunis, his ride or die, allegedly walking away after years of playing the loyal wife? What you're about to hear isn't just about wild parties and celebrity secrets. It's about a hidden inner circle, one that may have quietly controlled Hollywood for years. We're talking about erased records, redacted files, and a web of disturbing rumors that ties Ashton to some of the darkest names in the industry, from Diddy to Danny Masterson to Wilmer Valderrama. If even half of this is true, it rewrites everything we thought we knew about Ashton Kutcher, and the story Hollywood's been trying to bury for decades. The internet's been buzzing, but behind the headlines is something far darker than anyone expected. Ashton Kutcher, the guy once branded Hollywood's golden boy, is now at the center of whispers that connect him to a trail of disturbing scandals. And it's not just guilt by association anymore. It's patterns, behavior, timing, and silence. For years, Ashton played the role of the laid-back prankster, the lovable goofball who landed Mila Kunis and launched charities to protect children. But the deeper people dig, the more that carefully polished image starts to unravel. Because when Diddy's empire came crashing down under the weight of jaw-dropping allegations and federal investigations, Ashton didn't just distance himself, he disappeared. No red carpets, no press, no public statements, nothing. And that's when people started to notice. Insiders say Ashton wasn't just a guest at Diddy's notorious parties, he was one of the regulars, the inner circle. The type of guest who didn't show up by accident, but was invited because he was part of the machine. And let's not forget, those parties aren't just being exposed for wild nights. They're being tied to serious allegations, events that allegedly blurred legal and moral lines and left reputations shattered. As this case snowballs, whispers are turning into full-blown questions. Why did Ashton go silent? What exactly was he part of? And why are there now claims that he's being looked at as more than just a friend of Diddy, but potentially a co-conspirator? It's a claim no one wants to believe. But when you line up the facts, they start forming a story that's hard to ignore. But here's the part most people missed. While the media focused on Diddy's downfall, Ashton's name quietly started getting buried in sealed documents, cryptic online posts, and suddenly wiped social media timelines. Like someone was scrubbing history before the internet could catch up, and just when you think that's wild enough, what happened next had even his own fans questioning who Ashton Kutcher really is. Before the headlines, before the sitcoms and Silicon Valley investments, Ashton Kutcher was just a high school senior caught breaking into his own school. Not for a prank, but to steal answers and snatch some cash. That stunt earned him a third-degree burglary charge, a felony. It stripped him of scholarships, left a mark on his record, and should have derailed any dream of stardom. But it didn't. Instead, Ashton managed to bounce back. Years later, after gaining fame and fortune, he allegedly paid to get that felony wiped clean, like it never happened. Total erasure of his past. His voting rights restored. His criminal record expunged. All gone. It was a preview of how money works when you know the right people, and when you're becoming one of them. After dropping out of the University of Iowa, Ashton hit New York to chase a modeling career. He was partying, getting kicked out of apartments, and allegedly spiraling until he landed That 70s Show. That sitcom didn't just change his life, it introduced him to Danny Masterson and Wilmer Valderrama, two men who'd later become central to one of the most disturbing Hollywood circles ever exposed. And the deeper you look, the more everything connects. These weren't just party bros, they were part of what some now call the new Hollywood Rat Pack. Diddy, Ashton, Danny, Wilmer, all running in the same elite circles, throwing secretive parties, traveling in private jets, and operating behind velvet ropes and NDAs. Events where phones were banned, cameras covered, stories silenced, and at the center of it all, Ashton, charming, quiet, and always around, but never questioned. That is, until now. As more testimonies come to light, names that were once whispered are now being said aloud, and Ashton's past is no longer just about a burglary. It's about who he protected, who protected him, and what kind of secrets he's really been carrying all these years, because the party stories are getting harder to laugh off. And one former relationship, one tragic night, would forever shatter Ashton's image in ways no sitcom could ever patch back together. Ashton Kutcher's carefully polished image as a tech-savvy humanitarian and family man starts to crack the deeper you dig. While the world saw him as the goofy heartthrob from That 70s Show and the face behind a nonprofit dedicated to stopping child exploitation, behind the scenes, the rumors were building, and fast. It wasn't just his connection to Diddy that raised eyebrows. Ashton's name has come up in whispers linked to a circle of men who have been accused of disturbing behavior. Danny Masterson, Wilmer Valderrama, and even ties to the now infamous New Hollywood Rat Pack. This group wasn't just about parties and red carpets, they were allegedly hosting secretive gatherings where the lines between fame, influence, and exploitation blurred in the worst ways. People started asking hard questions. How did Ashton get away with so much for so long? Why did so many women around him end up in dark circumstances? One of the most chilling examples is Ashley Ellerin, a woman Ashton once dated. On the night she was brutally unalived, Ashton showed up late to her house, peered through the window, and saw what he assumed was spilled wine. He didn't knock, didn't call the police, he just left. The next morning, she was found lifeless inside. And that story has never sat right with anyone. Then there's the eerie pattern no one can ignore. Brittany Murphy, Kim Porter, even Davy Chase, women who once moved in the same circles as Ashton and Diddy, gone too soon under mysterious circumstances. Fans and conspiracy theorists alike are starting to connect dots that Hollywood has worked hard to erase. It's like the deeper you dig, the darker the connections get. And just when you think it can't get more twisted, the rumors around Mila Kunis start heating up. Because what happened next had people questioning everything. Insiders say Mila Kunis had reached her breaking point. For years, she stood by Ashton. Through the media storms, the resurfaced controversies, and the shady friendships. But once Ashton's name started surfacing in the same breath as Diddy's investigation, something changed. Fast. Word on the street is Mila quietly filed for divorce and completely cut ties. Not just from Ashton, but from the entire circle they once thrived in. No more public appearances, no more interviews together, just radio silence. And according to sources close to the couple, this wasn't just about scandal, it was about secrets she could no longer ignore. People close to Mila say she had been covering for Ashton for years, brushing off rumors, standing by him in interviews, playing the role of the loyal partner. But behind the scenes, whispers of Ashton's double life had been eating away at her, especially when his past started overlapping with Diddy's alleged underground world. It didn't help that Ashton and Mila had also been under fire for their letters in support of Danny Masterson, Ashton's longtime friend and co-star, after Masterson was convicted of disturbing crimes. The backlash was swift, and the damage to Ashton's already fragile image was devastating. But for Mila, it was personal. Now fans are asking, was Mila ever really in the dark? Or was she part of the silence? That silence became deafening when Ashton suddenly stepped down from the board of his own nonprofit. No warning, no statement, no explanation. Just vanished. And that timing? Right when investigators started circling closer to Diddy's inner circle. Something was happening behind closed doors, and Mila didn't want to be part of the cover-up anymore. But the next name tied to Ashton's unraveling image would push things even further. Let's talk about Ashley Ellerin, Ashton's ex-girlfriend, whose name still haunts headlines. Back in 2001, she was a 22-year-old fashion student with her whole life ahead of her. On the night, she was taken from this world in the most brutal way imaginable. Ashton was supposed to take her out, but he showed up late. He later told police he looked through her window, saw what he assumed was spilled wine on the floor, and left. Hours later, Ashley's body was discovered inside the house. The wine Ashton mentioned? Investigators now believe that was blood. The public has never fully accepted Ashton's version of that night. His delay in calling anyone, His casual reaction to red stains on the floor, his decision to just walk away without checking if Ashley was okay. For years, it's all felt off, and as the Diddy investigation drags more names into the spotlight, people are revisiting every strange piece of Ashton's past, and Ashley's case keeps resurfacing. Now here's where the web starts expanding again, because Ashley wasn't the only one close to Ashton who passed under suspicious circumstances. Let's not forget Brittany Murphy, Ashton's former co-star and rumored flame. She passed away suddenly in 2009 at just 32 years old. The cause? Pneumonia and anemia, according to official reports. But months later, her husband Simon Monjack died from the exact same thing. Same symptoms, same mystery. Too similar to ignore. And guess who else passed with that same cause of death? Kim Porter, Diddy's ex, and the mother of 3 of his children. She died in 2018. The official report? Also pneumonia. That's 3 people, all tied in some way to this inner circle, all gone under eerily similar circumstances. Coincidence? Or part of something bigger? Something no one wants to talk about? Either way, Ashton keeps showing up where the darkness lingers. And it doesn't end there. Here's where things take an even darker turn. Fans started pointing fingers not just at Ashton, but at his entire inner circle. Because when you zoom in, a disturbing pattern starts to form. One that links Ashton Kutcher, Wilmer Valderrama, Danny Masterson, and even Diddy into something much more sinister. They called themselves the New Hollywood Rat Pack. But this wasn't about martinis and late-night poker games. This crew was allegedly flying around the world, hosting extravagant parties behind closed doors where the rules didn't apply and the cameras were kept far away. People started connecting the dots. Wilmer, who had a string of relationships with much younger women, Demi Lovato, Lindsay Lohan, Mandy Moore. Most of them were either barely legal or not legal at all when things reportedly began. And it was Ashton, Wilmer's longtime friend and business partner, who was right there the entire time. What's even more disturbing, allegations surfaced that Wilmer co-owned a bar where underage girls were allegedly allowed in without being ID'd. An employee claimed it was an open secret, and that another celebrity, Megan Good, was also financially involved. The same Megan Good now preaching faith and healing publicly. If that's true, this wasn't just a few shady nights. It was a setup. A place where vulnerable people were allegedly targeted, protected by a tight-knit circle of stars who knew how to keep things buried. And Ashton, the guy who publicly launched a non-profit to protect exploited children online, was allegedly hanging out in the very environments that put young people at risk. It's a contradiction so blatant, it's hard to ignore. Worse still, Ashton never said a word. Not when Wilmer's sketchy dating timeline came under fire. Not when Danny Masterson was convicted. And not when those same patterns started pointing back to himself. In fact, when Danny went down, Ashton and Mila tried to act like they barely knew him. All those birthday photos, family trips, and tight friendships suddenly gone from social media, deleted. Like none of it ever happened. Just like that, a digital wipeout. It felt like damage control, like a full-on rebrand, hoping no one would dig too deep. But they did, and what they found next will shake everything. The timeline got even messier when people started revisiting Ashton's connection to one of his exes, Ashley Ellerin. She was only 22 years old, a fashion student, and dating Ashton at the time of her tragic passing. The night it happened, Ashton admitted he showed up to her house late. He looked through the window, saw what he thought were red stains on the carpet, assumed it was spilled wine, and left. By morning, Ashley was found inside, no longer alive. It's a story that's haunted people for years, not just because of how devastating it was, but because of how casual Ashton's reaction seemed. Red stains. No answer. And he just left? The details never sat right with fans. Some said it was a tragic misunderstanding. Others weren't so sure, and she wasn't the only one. Because right after that, Ashton was seen spending time with Brittany Murphy. And what happened next? She passed away suddenly at just 32 years old. Official cause? Pneumonia and anemia. But it didn't stop there. Just months later, her husband Simon Monjack also passed, Same cause, same eerie timing, same questions. And here's the kicker, Kim Porter, Diddy's ex and the mother of 3 of his kids, also passed suddenly in 2018. Cause of death? Pneumonia. 3 people, same cause, all tied to this circle, all with their lives cut short too soon. That's not coincidence. That's a pattern, and the internet noticed. Conspiracy theories started flying. Were these all just tragic coincidences, or was something much darker going on behind the scenes? The whispers only got louder, because Ashton wasn't just connected to these tragedies. He was actively scrubbing his image while staying quiet on all of it, stepping down from his nonprofit board, pulling back from the spotlight, and most recently, rumors say, losing his marriage. Insiders claim Mila Kunis has filed for divorce, that she's done covering for him, that after everything, from Diddy's scandal to the resurfaced stories, she's walking away for good. And honestly, who could blame her? The real question now is, will Ashton keep hiding in the shadows? Because what's coming next could blow everything wide open. Now let's talk about the final twist, the one that has everyone's jaw on the floor. Remember Davy Chase? She was the eerie little girl from The Ring, once Hollywood's rising star. Then suddenly, she vanished. No films, no red carpets, no public appearances. Gone. But behind the scenes, her life was unraveling, multiple arrests, substance issues, jail time. And what connected all the chaos? One chilling rumor. Word on the street is that everything spiraled after a wild night, one where she allegedly partied with none other than Diddy and Ashton Kutcher. And here's the disturbing part, she was allegedly way too young to be there. Ever since that night, it was like her life was cursed. From promising actress to mugshots in just a few years. And people aren't blaming bad luck anymore. They're blaming what happened at that party. But Davy Chase wasn't alone. There are whispers Ashton had a long pattern of dating younger women. Rumors say he was involved with Lindsay Lohan when she was just 16. And when that ended, she supposedly moved straight to Wilmer Valderrama, Ashton's close friend, who was nearly a decade older. Then came Demi Lovato. Wilmer was 29, Demi had just turned 18. But years later, she admitted it started before that. It's a disturbing trend, one that keeps repeating. And here's where it gets darker. An ex-employee came forward claiming Wilmer co-owned a Hollywood bar where underage girls were allegedly allowed in, and staff were told not to ID anyone at their table. That same employee named Megan Good as an investor and said she was just as involved. And right in the center of it all, Ashton Kutcher, Wilmer's best friend, business partner, constant wingman. Now ask yourself, if all this was happening around him, did Ashton really not know? Or was he just part of it all? Because for someone who built a nonprofit to protect children online, the whispers surrounding his personal circle feel like a complete contradiction. It's the kind of dual life that makes people wonder, was Ashton really a hero, or just another Hollywood illusion? And now that the spotlight is back on him, the question isn't just about what he knew. It's about how long he can keep running from it. Zoom out, and what do you see? A web of scandals. A so-called new Hollywood rat pack, built on power, secrecy, and silence. Ashton Kutcher, Wilmer Valderrama, Danny Masterson, men tied by more than just fame. They shared business ventures, private parties, and according to mounting claims, a long trail of whispers they hoped no one would ever follow. When Diddy's empire began to collapse, so did the walls they'd built around themselves. Investigations widened, connections got exposed, and suddenly, all those smiling red carpet photos took on a darker tone. Ashton didn't just know these men, he helped elevate them, helped protect them. And as Mila Kunis reportedly files for divorce, many believe she finally saw the full picture. That behind Ashton's activism and clean-cut image was a man tangled in the very darkness he claimed to fight against. The nonprofit, the tech startups, the public speeches, it all sounds noble until you realize what may have been happening behind the scenes. And when you search for answers, it's like the internet's been scrubbed. Reports vanish, connections disappear, and all that's left is speculation and fear. But the courtrooms aren't done yet. Witnesses are still testifying. New names keep emerging. And Ashton? He's no longer in hiding, but his silence speaks volumes. Because in Hollywood, what you don't say often reveals more than what you do. And now, the entire world is listening. So here we are. Ashton Kutcher, once seen as the golden boy of Hollywood, now caught in the shadows of one of the biggest scandals of our time. A scandal that started with Diddy and unraveled into something much darker and much wider. What began as questions about one man's power has now pulled in a circle of celebrities, secrets, and stories long buried. Ashton's clean image is cracking. His silence, deafening, his past, no longer untouchable. From high school felonies to hush-hush white. Parties? From his connections with underage girls to his involvement in circles now under legal fire. Ashton's world is no longer just about tech deals and TED Talks, and with Mila Kunis reportedly stepping away, maybe for good, it seems even those closest to him are done looking the other way. The truth is still unraveling, more testimonies are coming, more secrets may surface, but one thing's already clear: the new Hollywood may not survive what's coming next.